Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in Daniel chapter 10, and we're doing a slight diversion, and we're kind of exploring Daniel chapter 10, Revelation, of a spiritual warfare scene that took place where Daniel began to pray. He actually went on a semi-fast, or he didn't eat pleasant food. He kind of he ate, and probably one reason why he did not go on a total fast was because of his duties. But that's just a speculation. Um, but at the end of this fast, which was 21 days, an angel appeared to him and said to him, I've been sent. I was sent, in fact, the very first day you began your prayer. But then the revelation reveals something very interesting where it says that I was held up for 21 days. There was a warfare going on, and then he says, and Michael, your prince, and we'll get to Michael later, came came to help me. And now I'm here. Now this so what is interesting about this chapter is it it's the only it's just given just for this revelation. In fact, let me pull up the chapter here, and as you can see, to go back to chapter 10, this this happens in the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia. Now, when we get to the 11th chapter, you will notice that the 11th chapter happened in the first year of Darius. So there's a time gap here. So in other words, the purpose of this chapter here is just to reveal the fact that there was this conflict. Now, initially I thought it was a prelude to the 11th chapter. But again, we see that over a year later, or I haven't done my history to say when the overlapping here between Cyrus and Darius. Okay. Now it's possible they also might have been rulers over different province of the King and Persia Empire. But anyway, we've been talking about spiritual warfare, and so what I want to do is before I leave this, I want to look at I mentioned them. I mentioned them these verses, but I want to just take a look at them because again, we don't get a chance to talk about uh, spiritual warfare and sometimes these kind of subjects we don't get to talk about them. So that's why I'm taking time to kind of explore them. So I want to go to Job and just show you what. Again, the purpose of this is to show that there are two realms. There is a spiritual realm, which is the realm where God exists, and then there's our realm, the physical realm. And as I said before, the spiritual realm is actually um, the reality. God is the reality. So our realm is kind of, you know, it's a reality, but not. It exists in a sense apart from God. God created this physical realm. Much like if we had a fishbowl. You think about an aquarium, a large aquarium, and you dump all kinds of fish in it. Let's say you decorate your aquarium, and then with all kinds of plant life, sea life, the terrain of it, you create it. You dump the water in, and then you dump the fish. But but the the reality within the fish, right? The aquarium is different than your reality. You're the reality because you created it. So God is the reality. That's what I guess what I'm saying here. So, but I want to show you again. I want to actually show you this And I'm not going to get into obviously the book of Job. We have studied the book of Job. Remember our journey. This is our journey through the Bible, which is actually coming to an end. We only got really 3 more books after Daniel. But I digress. So Job chapter 1, I'm going to pick it up at verse number 6. It says, one day the sons of God, now these refer to angels, the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with him. The Lord asked Satan, where have you come from? From roaming through the earth. Satan answered him, and walking around it. So the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? No one else on earth is like him, a man of perfect integrity, who fears God and turns away from evil. Excuse me. Satan answered, the Lord, does Job fear God for nothing? Haven't you placed a hedge around him, his household, and everything he owns? And you have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hands and strike everything he owns, and he will surely curse you to your face. Very well, the Lord said to Satan, everything he owns is in your power. However, you must not lay a hand on Job himself. So Satan left the Lord's presence. So this was an interesting story. So you go on and you see that everything physically was taken away from Job. He lost his house, his wealth, even his children. But just as Satan says, you can't kill Job. So then when we get to the second chapter, it says, chapter 2, verse 1 says, on the day the sons of God came again to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them to present himself before the Lord. The Lord asked Satan, where have you come from? From roaming through the earth. Satan answered the Lord, and walking around it. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? No one on earth is like him, a man of integrity, who fears God and turns away from evil. He still retains his integrity, even though you incite me against him to destroy him without a cause. And he said, skin for skin. Satan answered the Lord, a man will give up everything he owns in exchange for his life, but stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bone, and he will surely curse you to your face. Very well, the Lord told Satan, he is in your power, only spare his life. So Satan left the presence of the Lord and infected Job with terrible boils from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. Now, here's what's interesting about this. And we didn't go into the details. What is interesting, we see the power of Satan. Now, remember, God created Satan, a very powerful being. God also controls it, limited. But notice here that one of the reasons, and I want to specify one of the reasons that you could be sick is because Satan, yes, afflicts you. We also see where, if you go back in the first chapter, the devastation that came to Job's life was due to the hand of Satan, where thieves and robbers. And by the way, remember I said that one of the in fact, let me go back. I'm gonna just read a couple of these examples here. Verse 13 says, this was the first encounter. He says, one day when Job's sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and reported, while the oxen were plowing and the donkeys grazing nearby, the Sabeans swooped down, took them away. They struck down the servants with the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Now, I want to make this point. Think about this. Here are the Sabeans. Where did they get the thought, which they did not have the thought before? Job had existed for years, and now they get this thought to attack Job. And so how did Satan do that? Well, he put in their mind, he put in their mind to attack. Now, I want you to keep that in mind, because remember we said that is the primary way that Satan that the warfare that we have against Satan is what? The battle of the mind, the battle of thoughts. But he also, and then you could see that other messengers came and told him about uh, um, things that were taken away from him, his great wealth, all of his great wealth. Verse 18 says, he was still speaking when another messenger came and reported, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking while wine in their eldest brother's house. Suddenly a powerful wind swept in from the desert and struck the corners of the house. Now again, so this was where he used the wind, right, and lightning and all that kind of stuff. My point is, Satan has the ability to do it. It doesn't necessarily means that he always can do it without God's sovereign decree. In this case, God proved the point. And you can get into all of the other aspects as to why God allows Satan to do it. We won't entertain it here. My point is to show you what was going on in the spiritual realm. Let me go and show another one. I believe I want First Chronicles 20 here. Oh, the Second Chronicles 20. No, it got to be First Chronicles. There we go. Yes. Let me show you this in First Kings. First Kings chapter First Kings chapter 22. This is a story. King Ahab was a very wicked king, an extremely wicked king, and I want to show you Jehoshaphat had came. Now, at this time, and you may remember, the Israel is a divided kingdom that happened because of Solomon's son Rehoboam, and so the northern kingdom was ruled by Israel, and this would be Ahab at this time. The southern kingdom, which was Judah, ruled by Jehoshaphat. Now Jehoshaphat was a good king, but he allied with wicked people. That was his fault. And really, he never learned a lesson from it, but that was his fault. He was a wicked, he allied with wicked people. He himself was a good king, but he allied with wicked people. So Ahab says, hey, go to war with me. And so Jehoshaphat says, and we could do a whole story on Jehoshaphat because I think many pastors today ally with wicked ministers, wicked people. I digress. Okay. But anyway, Ahab said, come and go to war with me. And then Jehoshaphat said, okay, let's seek the counsel of God. Is there a prophet? So finally, Ahab said, yeah, there's this one prophet, but he hates me. He doesn't profit anything against me. So, verse 18, I'm just going to pick it up here. He says, so the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, didn't I tell you he never prophesied good about me, but only disaster? Then Micaiah said, therefore, hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and the whole heavenly host was standing by him, at his right hand and at his left hand. And the Lord said, who will entice Ahab to march up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? So one was saying this, and another was saying that. Then a spirit came forward and stood before the Lord and said, I will entice him. The Lord asked him, how? And he said, I will go and become a lying spirit in the mouth of all of his prophets. Then he said, you will certainly entice him and prevail. Go and do that. See, and this is now the prophets saying, see, you see, the Lord has put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these prophets of yours. and the Lord has pronounced disaster against you. Now they ask for a prophet, they get a true prophet. If you notice now in verse 13, then Zedekiah, son of Shaniah, came up and hit Micaiah in the face and demanded, "Did the Spirit of the Lord leave me to speak to you?" So now the point is that the false prophet had prophesied to Ahab, "Go up," and I think even this guy made horns of iron. He go, "You would with these, you're gonna gore your enemies," and all that, right? So then, when they finally bring Micaiah, he go, "Yeah, sure, you're gonna go." But when he tells them this, they still don't listen. Ahab goes up and he falls, he dies. But notice again what was going on in the spiritual realm, and that's the point I wanted to see. And again, notice how he was able to bring about their fall. It was planting thoughts, corralling their minds. See, that's the biggest spiritual warfare here. Despite the fact that they acknowledged that a true prophet had spoken, they acknowledged that. And yet they still go up against that. Why? He said this spirit would be a lying prophet. I mean, he would put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these prophets. Now look at First Chronicles chapter 21, and look at this. Now this is one of the rare times you see in the Old Testament where it actually says this. It says Satan stood up against Israel and incited David to count the people of Israel. Okay, now I want you to notice this story here where David was sitting up. He incites. He commanded the people to go out. His commanders to take a number of the people. Now he wasn't supposed to do that. Even his wicked nephew, who was his military commander, Joab, said, "This is a bad idea." But notice here, we get up behind the scenes. Look, Satan incited David. Now the result of that, he counts the people. And here's what I want you to see. Verse 14, so the Lord sent a plague of Israel, and 70,000 Israelite men died. Now that's the point I want to show you, is that the result of that disobedience, 70,000 people died. That's the point I want you to see with that. So the spiritual warfare, the biggest part of the spiritual warfare is renewing our fighting against thoughts. It is utterly amazing when you look at the world today. Now think about that. When you look at the world, it is utterly amazing how and why people do what they do, especially the masses, right? Just think about that. And the number one thing that you could always trace is how the masses are corralled by thoughts. Okay, how the masses are corralled by thoughts. All right, I'm probably going to do one more just to close this out, but I think it's important because one of the things I believe that's most important is that you understand this. So, and I'll get into this in the next study, how we battle this, why it's important to get into the Word of God. Okay, why it is so important to get into the Word of God. All right, guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome, and I'll see you in the next study.